Welcome to the Lodging Tax Reimbursement Training. This presentation is designed to guide you through the entire reimbursement process, from tracking your project and collecting the necessary documentation to properly submitting your receipts and understanding what expenses are eligible. Throughout this training, we will break down each step in detail and provide clear instructions so that you can successfully navigate the requirements and secure the funding you've been awarded. We'll also highlight the essential forms and documents you'll need along the way. Let's dive in and get started with an overview of the process. As an overview, it is best to start thinking of the reimbursement process during the initial planning, through the execution of your event, and finally when you submit your receipts and expenses. Each award winner should know prior to their event what expenses they will be seeking reimbursement for, what requirements are needed for proper reimbursement, how to track your event, and how to submit receipts at the conclusion of your event. As we move forward, remember these two golden rules to remember about reimbursements. 1. Reimbursements are just that, reimbursements. Your organization must pay vendors in full before submitting a request to the auditor's office. To process your reimbursement, all appropriate paperwork must be submitted along with your expenses. We'll go over exactly what that means later in this training. Number 2. Don't miss the deadline. Eligible expenses must take place during the 2025 calendar year. The final deadline to submit for reimbursement is 5 p.m. on Monday, January 12th, 2026. However, the auditor's office strongly recommends submitting at least 1 week early to allow time for any corrections or follow-up. Do not wait until the last minute. Before we continue, I do want to point out something. This training is not meant to replace the auditor's office training available on the Kittitas County Government website. Instead, this material is meant to supplement what's already there, to provide some extra guidance and to help clarify the process. Because different types of reimbursements may require different forms, we strongly recommend downloading the official training materials using the link provided or by searching the county website directly. If it is easier, you can also email Matt at the chamber and I'll be happy to send you a copy of the PDF directly. Before we go any further, make sure you have a copy of your grant contract and grant application handy. These documents outline what expenses are eligible for reimbursement and are essential for ensuring that your submission is accurate. One of the most important aspects of the reimbursement process is understanding which expenses qualify. Only expenses listed in your grant application and reflected in your contract will be reimbursed. Do not submit receipts not reflected in your contract. If you listed a specific dollar amount for an expense in your application, be aware that funds spent in excess of that budgeted amount may not be reimbursed. We will review what you need to be tracking at your event and how to report back to the county. Additionally, there are very specific branding requirements that must be followed when utilizing grants for advertising. All advertising materials for which you seek reimbursement must include the appropriate city tourism logos. We will touch on what is needed on your advertising materials and collateral items and how to find those logos. Let's talk about local policy on disallowed uses. The lodging tax advisory committees have determined that some type of expenses are not eligible for reimbursements, even if they might seem tourism related. These include anything affiliated with prizes for contestants, items intended for resale, food and drink, beautification projects, fundraising efforts, and anything construed as a membership drive. This list isn't all-inclusive, and funding recommendations are always at the discretion of the committee and can be changed based on majority opinion. If you're ever unsure whether or not something qualifies, please check with the Chamber of Commerce before you spend the money. We're happy to help clarify what's allowed, and it's much easier to confirm ahead of time than find out later that something cannot be reimbursed. When utilizing grant funds for marketing, it is crucial to follow the branding and logo requirements. You must prominently display the correct city logo based on where your event takes place. For example, if your event is held in Ellensburg, you must use the My Ellensburg logo. Additionally, all advertising materials, including print, digital, and video, must include the Central Washington Outdoor logo. The logos must be a minimum of 1/2 inch in height, surrounded by adequate white space for clarity, and cannot be altered in color or appearance. Be sure to verify that all advertising materials meet these requirements before submitting them for reimbursement. If you have questions about logo usage, you can contact the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce. For advertising reimbursements to be fully funded, it should predominantly take place outside of 50 miles from your event or program. If you place print advertising with media providers located outside of Kittitas County, those costs are eligible for up to 100%, including production cost. You should keep specific records of where your advertising will be located. If you're using social media or other digital media, you need to keep track of what geographic markets your ads are targeting. For print advertising placed inside Kittitas County, date-specific guidelines apply. Advertising for events on the day of or up to 10 days prior may be fully reimbursed. For seasonal or year-round programs and events, the same guidelines apply. Print advertising specific to flyers and posters will require proof of distribution outside of Kittitas County to be reimbursed. Online advertising expenses are reimbursed at 100% with proper documentation, including invoices and screenshots showing the required logos. Remember, the proper documentation is the key to securing your reimbursement. To ensure a smooth reimbursement process, you must provide complete and accurate documentation. Multiple forms that can be found on the county's website are needed. Please note the location of these forms on this slide. Two required forms are a lodging tax reimbursement form and the lodging tax event reporting worksheet. Other forms may also be necessary. An updated W-9 form is required each year that funds are awarded. Reimbursements will not be processed until a current W-9 form is on file with the Kittitas County Auditor's Office. A completed lodging tax reimbursement form details your expenses and outlines the amounts being claimed. You also need to include invoices that show the vendors have been paid in full and copies of all advertising materials that clearly display the required logos. Organizations can process 2 reimbursements per year. Each time you apply for reimbursement, you are required to have all paid invoices and other required backup data that equals the dollar amount you are asking reimbursement for. Now let's talk about filling out the lodging tax reimbursement form. Please note when you open the form, it says Kittitas County Hotel Motel Funds. This form must be submitted with each batch of receipts you are requesting reimbursement for. Please make sure your contact information matches what is listed on the contract. This helps the auditor's office process your request without delay. Each award winner is responsible for tracking how much of their award has already been reimbursed. It is important to stay on top of your remaining balance through the year. Every form you submit needs to be signed and dated and must include all the required supporting documents. That means invoices, proof of payment, anything else tied to the expenses listed. Operation reimbursements, so long as they are identified in your contract, are also reimbursable. Common examples include talent fees, rentals of equipment or venues, as well as other contracted services such as waste management or audiovisual technicians. When submitted operation-related expenses, you will use the form labeled Operations Exhibit B on the county website. Online advertising also requires an additional form in addition to the lodging tax reimbursement form. The form is labeled Online Advertising Exhibit B Worksheet. The media buy and the production costs are reimbursable expenses. Specifically with this form, the award winner should be able to show the invoice paid in full as well as the time frame for the advertising, screenshots or other proof showing proper branding. For any streamed media, a statement of proof from the media provider stating that consumers of the media are outside of Kittitas County. Both direct mail and flyers and posters can be eligible for reimbursement. The forms needed are labeled on the county's webpage. Again, these expenses must fall under one of your intended use categories, often marketing or advertising. The grantee must show the following: paid invoices reflecting the total items printed or mailed, a sample of the flyer, poster, or mailing showing proper branding, complete addresses where the material was either mailed to or distributed to, a statement from the grantee attesting to the accuracy of the list. Banners and layout signage can also be reimbursable, even though they are displayed within the typical 50-mile radius rule. Banners and layout signage should not be date-specific or mention locations. Banners and layout signage should also be properly branded. Only one purchase per event or program for banners is allowed. One of the final forms to review is how you will be reporting your actual attendance, a key part of your responsibility as a lodging tax award recipient. When you applied for funding, you included your projected numbers, how many people you thought would attend, how many might travel from out of town, and how many may stay overnight. Now that your event or project has happened, you're required to report your actual numbers, even if some are estimates. You'll do this by filling out the Event Expenditure Worksheet, which can be found on the Kittitas County Government website. Here's what you'll need to report. Number 1, total attendance. How many people came to your event or participated in your program? Number 2, travelers from more than 50 miles away. An estimate of how many attendees traveled from outside the local area. Number 3, your overnight stays. How many people stayed in paid lodging like hotels or vacation rentals here in Kittitas County? And finally, your methodology. An explanation of how you calculated or estimated these numbers. That might include ticket sales, zip code data, surveys, registration info, or even visual estimates. The county website includes a helpful link of definitions and acceptable methods for collecting this data. Be sure to review them before submitting this worksheet. There are other ineligible expenses we have not talked about yet. This grant process was not for capital expenses. Equipment valued at $5,000 or more should not be submitted for reimbursement. Reoccurring operational expenses for your organization will also not be reimbursed. Reimbursements for payroll, credit card transactions, utilities, or other reoccurring expenses should not be submitted. To make sure your reimbursements go smoothly and process quickly, here are a few best practices to keep in mind. Submit your reimbursement within 30 days of your event wrapping up. This helps you get your funds faster and avoids a backlog at the end of the year for the auditor's office. If you received a grant that spans the calendar year, consider 2 installments over the course of the program as expenses are paid. Make sure your receipts and invoices are easy to read and clearly show proof of payment. Ask questions, especially if you're unsure about branding requirements or how to use the required logos. It is always better to double check. And finally, track your attendance and whatever may make sense for your event. Whether it's through ticketing, survey, or head counts, just make sure you document your method so you can report it accurately for later. Following these steps can really make a difference in how efficiently your reimbursement is processed.